Welcome to my barn. I'm Daniel, and in this video I'm going to be making a lightweight carbon fiber cowl for my Bearhawk 4-place using this mold right here. It's been a little over 2 years and I'm still in the pre-assembly phase. I'm sure if I had followed the plans I'd probably be done by now, but at the end of the day I'm going to have a very special Bearhawk. So let's get this process started. So I built a plug for this. Obviously before I made the mold, the plug was on the airplane right over there. That's part of it that's left over. The other part of it is right over there. And there was a lot of upside down work that had to be done. Now, anyone that does this for a living would tell you can't fiberglass upside down. There's a lot of truth to that. What you can do is kind of get a strategy for how to get to those areas. So in some cases, you know, you can roll an object while you glass it. In this case, what I did is I put rigging in the overhead up there so that one strap was stationary and I would raise and lower the other one, and that would kind of roll the plug one way and the other. And so that way I was able to glass on top, and then as soon as that got tacky I could kind of roll it upside down and get the other areas. It was a very elaborate process, and so I had to kind of map out, build a schedule for how to get that done. You can see here I started 1, 2, 3, 4, and so there was a total of, I think, 25 layers of fiberglass. Anyone who's done that type of work before would know that once you start glassing, you're kind of on the clock, and then you add the element of having to like rotate and get to the bottom and, you know, do right side up and upside down. Essentially what I'd have to do is do like 1, 2, 3, get it tacky, move on to somewhere else, and before I roll it, it's got to start to get tacky, and do the other side, let that get tacky, and then roll it back and start doing, you know, tying it into the rest so that it doesn't firm up before you connect all the layers. And so that was pretty complicated. But here I am. I've already put release agent into it. I spent last night putting the primer coat in there, so when it comes out of the mold, there'll be no filler work, there'll be no glass bubbles, there'll be no primer. It'll just come out and it'll be, you know, ready for a scuff and a paint. You see the strap, so that was part of the attempt to pull the plug, to pull the mold off of the plug along with those. And I've got a picture of that. Didn't end up needing to use the strap, but that was added security. And then before I started kind of the primer, I went ahead and put a Schrader valve in here. So this is added security for if I get into an oops moment and the part is stuck in the mold, I've got something to help out with that. I have had 2 of the molds that I've done so far fail with this. I think the first one was opening and closing the top frequently, let air in, and then, you know, the release agent stopped working. And the other one is it gets really cold in the shop here, and so I think just the maybe the cold temperatures stopped it from working. I don't know. So I store that in the house now. Let's see. So I've cut the nose off the plug, and the idea here is I've got a satin fabric, which I haven't worked with before. So it's got much better drapeability properties, and so it'll contour to very complicated shapes a lot easier. And so this will allow me to kind of drape those pieces over here and cut them where they need to go, and then I can transfer the pieces into the mold because, you know, the depth of it just makes it very awkward to work in. The last thing I'll mention before I get started is I wanted to do a one-piece mold rather than, you know, a top and a bottom. What this will let me do is I can make the part, you know, I can make the cowling in one part, and then I can put the split lines wherever I want. And so my first plan is to do a clamshell cowl. So I'd do a split line kind of right along the top there. I don't like cowlings that have the split line, you know, right at the nostrils. And then if I don't like that, you know, I can come back, make another one, then I can do the cowl cheek, version if that's what I want. I did work on airplanes, small airplanes for quite a while, and it made no difference to me, cowl cheeks or not. I understand the benefit of the cowl cheeks, but I'm still going to give the clamshell a try and see what happens. Okay, there I've got the 3 layers cut off the roll. I've got my template, which I did on the plug. Let's see, before I took that down. Got the Soric over there. First layer is a 2x2 twill, right? And then I'll put a biaxial cloth down, right? So 2x2 twill has the fibers going at a 90, so north, south, east, west kind of deal. And then the biaxial has the fibers going, at a 45, and then it's stitched to kind of hold it in place. This is a little thicker than I would have wanted. It'll make the part just a little bit heavy. It's still lighter than aluminum, but if you, get the stack wrong, you could easily make a part that's heavier than aluminum. I think ideally, I'd rather just have 3 layers of the thin 2x2 twill, right? Much thinner. And then, have one of those go at the 45, but then I'd have all these awkward little pieces everywhere. So I'll just do that. And then the Soric will go in after the biaxial, and then I'll put one last piece of the 2x2 twill on. So that's that. Soric I've already cut. I got the bottom piece, and then I've got a gap for the cowl split line. There's the cowling exit there. I've got the oil door cut out, right? And so that's the thinnest, Soric that you can get. And so that should stiffen it up and keep it light. I've got some trimming done. I've done the top layer and the biaxial cloth. What I've done is the template actually lines up with the top radius flange of the mold. So right over there, right at the top. And I've left these like tabs over here so that I can fold those over and tape them. That'll enable me to line the piece of fabric up in the mold right where it's supposed to go, and then fold those over, and that'll keep it in place. At least that's the idea. So got those 3 done. I need to do the satin fabric on the nose bowl, and then I can start putting them into the mold. This is where I'm at. I've got my first template done, and I got it into the mold, which was quite a struggle. The satin fabric doesn't drape as much as I thought, so I'm still having to make a separate piece for the air inlet and then the 2 nostrils. The mold was quite the experience. I had thought I could lay it flat and still reach inside and or do a reverse sit-up, but I wasn't able to do any of that. I had to hang it upside down. So let's have a look. There it is, hung from the 2nd story. I had to stabilize it a little bit. When I was putting the carbon piece in there, it was moving around. Let's look inside. Let's see. Some light might help. And you probably get a good echo. But yeah, the spray tack defies gravity, so that's pretty cool. And this is going to be a painted part. It won't be a naked carbon part. So let's see if I can get better light here. So yeah, it doesn't need to be pretty. I'm ready to do the big pieces all around now, so let me move on to that. All right, got a fire going. This is last night's carbon fiber explosion. Let's get some light going on here. Wow. Jeez. Yep. Got a fire started. Goal last night, well, this morning, I worked until about 3 in the morning. What I was trying to do was just get this thing left in a kind of upright condition, so I didn't have a load overnight on the fabric with the spray tack. Two issues there. The Soric core doesn't take as well to the spray tack as a carbon does. And then also I ran out of the 77, which I should be using 71. This stuff doesn't dissolve in the epoxy. And then this is from Easy Composites, actually. And that's really good. I only had this stuff, and this is a mild spray tack, so I had to use a lot of it to get stuff to stick. But anyway, last night, hit the goal, and today I've got more peel ply to do. I need to start by cleaning up, actually. That's the first thing. Then peel ply and bag it, and I'll check back in. Okay, this is where I'm at. It's been a couple of days since I laid in the fabric. The whole process, let's see, started Thursday. I put in primer. I did the carbon fiber cutting on Saturday and the layup on Sunday. And I realized, kind of dawned on me as I was cutting that much fabric, that I've never cut this amount of fabric before, and I only have 1 gallon of resin. Let me do the math. I've also never done the math on that. I just kind of top it off as I go during an infusion, and it turns out I didn't even have half the amount of resin to fully wet out this part. So that would have been just a disaster to get through half the infusion and realize that I didn't have enough epoxy. So I'll be waiting till the following Friday, which means the primer, which I put in on Thursday into the mold, will be sitting there for over a week. And I know you can, even a few days come back and still get a bond. I'm hoping I didn't, exceed the limit there or mess up some curing cycle between the two. I don't know, but time will tell. Hope I don't have an issue. And let's see. So I've got all my peel ply draped in here. I've got the resin infusion mesh. I have to fix some of the overlaps. That'll cause like a highway to occur in certain spots. So I'm going to cut those short. I've got my vacuum tubing all the way around and my resin brake right here. I've done 2 rows of gum tape. The bag, made the bag that was in that time lapse. Best way to describe that is like a Ziploc bag shape, sealed around all 4 edges. I've cut out the shape of the firewall. What I'm going to do is bring the bag over the top of it and stick it onto this outer layer of gum tape. And then as I draw a vacuum in the bag, it's going to roll over. And I've never done that before, so I'm a little worried it might tear off, like the vacuum might actually peel it away. And so as I lay the bag in, I'm going to roll it over and stick it to this layer. So this is essentially for sealing, and this is to prevent it from tearing off that first layer. That's the idea. So anyway, I'm going to bring the bag over, get it stuck on there, and start the infusion Friday when the epoxy gets here. It's Friday, and I got some resin in. I also the vacuum bag drawn down. It sure does get a lot smaller. And I have got to stick an infusion line right in there. I'm on the final stretch. The infusion last night went really well. I had one leak in the bag, but was able to seal that up. Since then, it's been sitting in the barn here for 24 hours, so the epoxy's firmed up, but it's the lines aren't cracking yet. It'll do 8 hours here underneath my workbench. Yeah, my insulated workbench doubles as an oven. And after 8 hours, I'll pull it out, debag it, and this is it. This is the final stretch. It's been like 2 hours taking vacuum bagging material out and consumables. I got 2 bags full of peel ply, flow media, vacuum bagging, and it's releasing around the edges, but it's giving me no indication that it wants to pull out. So I'm gonna set it vertical up by the stairs over there and put like 5 PSI on that Schrader valve. Leave it overnight, come back, put 5 more, see how long I need to do that before it pops right out of there. But there it is, almost done. Hear that? It's coming. Yes! Holy cow. I am so excited about that. That happened way easier than I ever thought. Look at that. There's the Schrader valve. Unreal how clean that looks. There you have it. I've cut out the center and the 2 nostrils. It's, you know, it's light. I guess not as light as I would have thought, but let's figure out exactly how much it weighs. 0. Just over 19 pounds. All right, full disclosure, I've already weighed it and I'm really not happy with how much it weighs. It pretty much weighs exactly the amount as all the aluminum pieces in the front nose bowl, without any of the rivets or any of the hardware or anything. And it does have 2.5 pounds of primer on it. So you can kind of shave 2.5 pounds off it, and that's the reality of how much it weighs. So I made another cowl. Let's have a look at that one. For the second cowl, I took a little more of a strategic approach, and I used some of the lighter weight carbon fiber materials that were available. I also did 1 less layer in the nose bowl, And I then, for the body kind of the cowl, I used that checkered carbon. It was again, the lightest weight one I could find. Really tight weave, really hard to work with. I replaced the Soric with a solid foam core. And then I also was more strategic with where I put the reinforcement and how many layers I did eventually put into those. So those are all the cut lines so that you're not cutting yourself and you don't end up with a very thin border, if you will, where you're going to have fasteners and screws through. The biggest issue with the first cowl was the Soric core that I used. I've seen other cowls use it from other manufacturers. When there's a fiberglass cowling, you can see through the fiberglass and it's obvious that they're using foam core or the Soric core, and it's advertised on the website as a lightweight option. In reality, that drew down a lot of resin. It was like a sponge. And I was topping off that resin faster than I ever had during the infusion. I used a lot more than I thought I would. Ultimately, that's kind of where I went wrong with that. I should have tested it, but I did YouTube University and just went along with it. Whereas with the new one, I was more strategic again with, how I did the layup and what foam core I used and what layers. So let's see what I was able to get it down to. That is a lot lighter. Whoop. Yeah, I couldn't do that with the other one. So what do we got? Just over 10 pounds. That's huge. That's huge. And I went a lot lighter on the primer. So whereas that one had about 2.5 pounds of primer on it, this one I did in about 1.5 pounds. So essentially I have a carbon cowl that is under 10 pounds. That is awesome. Before I close this video out, I'm going to go ahead and get the cowl mounted, see how it all fits up. If I did the plug right, it should fit just nice and snug around that whole firewall. So let me get a blanket on here and we'll put the cowling up. All right, moment of truth. That thing is so light. Ta-da! Wow. That looks so good. Oh, let's see. Okay, I got a little bit of gap at the top. Just a little bit. I mean, not even a 1/4 inch. And then at the other side as well. And that makes sense because I did a lot of fairing on the plug to make that transition as smooth as I could. And the rest of it, yeah, down in the side here, that is all nice and tight. And down at the bottom, That is really good. And then there's the outlet. All right, I'm gonna stop the video right there. Pretty happy with it, so see you on the next thing.